You can make all the excuses you want. The thing is, like, Mother Nature is undefeated. Mother Nature does not give a shit if you have children or if you have a job that, is busy and makes you stay up late, or, um, if you need time to unwind and you just aren't in the habit of getting to bed before 11 p.m. Hello and welcome to the Weaponized Body podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ryan Hewitt, and today we're going to talk about a combination of things involving metabolic movement and mindset. And that is a topic that millions and millions of North Americans and people worldwide are very focused and fixated on. It's a billion-dollar industry that drives this problem, and that is weight loss. And this is a topic of conversation that I often have with patients. It's something I deal with often when I'm reporting functional blood chemistry to patients, when we're trying to balance hormones and symptoms, etc. It's one of those things that many, many people struggle with. And that's why right now, one of the things that has taken off and that has been a game changer for a lot of people are the GLP-1 and tirzepatide meds, GLP-1 agonists. So those are the fat shots, right? Because they're so effective in helping people shed, an average of 20 pounds off their frame. However, it is not a magic solution. I did a webinar on this just a couple of weeks ago. We're going to touch on some of that today. We're going to touch on some habits or hidden mistakes you're making that are keeping you from losing weight. It seems like weight loss is very elusive to many people. And you're going to find by the end of this episode, so there is no magic formula. There is no hidden secret. If anybody's selling like a hidden secret or something magical that you never thought of before that you weren't doing to lose weight, chances are it's too good to be true. You're going to find that many of the things I'm going to talk about today are things you've heard before, but I'm going to try to spin it in a way that's going to make you think about them differently and maybe take them a little more seriously when it comes to body composition, when it comes to building muscle, when it comes to losing body fat on your frame. Because the tendency is we like to minimize things that we know are causing the problem. We like to tell ourselves lies. That's why in often when I'm working with patients, one of the first things we do is we get real with the facts. Okay, you cannot lie about the facts. The facts are the facts. It's the truth about what's going on with your body. We use diagnostics in my office, like body composition, so I can see what the body fat percentage is, how many pounds of fat versus pounds of muscle you have on your frame. And we start with a comprehensive blood analysis so we can see what's going on under the hood biochemically. And of course, it's important too to see what's going on with your movement, with your symptoms, etc. So we just start with a solid base of facts because you cannot hide from those. Um, and then we get really real with an assessment of what a typical day looks like in your average lifestyle. Now, most people think that you just need to eat less and move more in order to lose weight. Now, there's an element of truth to that. That's why this has been something that will never go away because the thing is you have to move your body. And the thing is you have to eat properly in order for your body to end up in a caloric balance or a caloric deficit or a caloric surplus if you're trying to gain. But many people are left exhausted, frustrated, and going nowhere because it's very evident that they're just sabotaging their progress. We are our own worst enemies. We're our own worst coaches, and we are terrible at really getting factual and real with what's actually going on. So this episode's about helping you identify potentially the real reasons you're stuck. So if you're identifying with any of these, the chances are this is an area in your life that is the reason that you're not getting the results that you want. And inevitably, the results that you want are hidden in the work that you're unwilling to do. So let's go over it. We could call this a top 10, but I've really identified 10 very important reasons that I see people sabotage themselves when it comes to getting the results they want with their health. Number one, and probably one of the most, I would say minimized, but most important for people is they don't track their food accurately. So this could be something that might make you neurotic. It might sound neurotic. Some people think it's insane, right? Tracking your food and finding out, well, what's my macronutrient balance? What's my caloric intake? But listen, if you've never done this exercise before, I strongly encourage you to at least do it for a period of time once in your life. I can't tell you how many people I have conversations with that say, oh, yeah, I eat healthy. I'm like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, well, here's what I'm doing. And it's like, okay. And if this person is clearly overweight, they're full of shit because inevitably most people, if they're carrying more weight on their frame, it's because they're eating in a constant caloric surplus, or they've eaten in a fashion that's got them to the size they are, and they've just continued to eat that much in order to maintain that frame. And here's what the statistics say is that most people are underreporting by actually like 30 to 50% of their intake. So we're full of shit half the time. And here's the deal, most people don't really realize the extra hidden calories that are in their food that they're just lathering on all their meals. And inevitably, they're just jacking up the calories by, 250 up to 500, even sometimes 1,000 more calories a day than you think. So, oils are really one of the most common culprits I see. So, when we're talking olive oils and butters, so we're using this to cook in a lot of our foods and using them for dressings, etc. And a lot of people don't realize when you're using, say, like a tablespoon of olive oil, that's already 15 to 20 grams of extra fat, 180, 200 calories right there. And you do that a couple times a day, boom, you've got 400 calories. Sauces and dressings. So especially if you're eating out, you don't know how much or what kind of sauces and dressing they're putting on your foods. And we're talking like sauces, dressings, marinades, condiments, and things like that, like mayos, as well as like sugary laden dressings and whatnot. So lots of extra calories come from that stuff unknowingly, things that make your food tastier. The small snacks, the little snacking. And this comes in the form of a couple bites here and there of the stuff on your countertop, or, two or three or four extra bites of your kids' food, or at work, you pass by that bowl of whatever it is, candy or cookies a couple times, you take a few bites. There's a strong underestimation of how much extra calorie that piles on in your day. Lastly, meals out. Meals out is a notorious way for people to continue to sabotage their progress. They might be, eating fantastic through the week, and then here comes Friday night, here comes Saturday and Sunday. And lo and behold, there's 3 days there where we're eating out dinners, lunches, doing a few, extra beverages of choice, and boom, you're, let's say, eating 1,900 calories during the week, and then on the weekends you're eating, you know 25 to 3,000 calories, and you've just undone all the progress in the prior 4 days with 3 days of eating like a jackass. So here's the thing, if it's not measured, you cannot manage it. Use an app like MyFitnessPal. That's a pretty good one. I mean, ChatGPT now is pretty darn good as far as giving you an idea of the caloric content of your foods. And here's the thing, if you're not preparing the food at home in a controlled environment, then you cannot be accurate with what you are putting in your body. So it's an exercise I strongly advise if you desire to have the body composition, the fitness, the health, the weight loss you're looking for. This is an essential element. This is a non negotiable. All my peeps in my Weaponized Body program, they have a perfect day of eating. They eat they meal prep and they eat all of their meals at home, or they bring them with them. And listen, there's going to be times where you're going to go out to eat and you're going to have fun, but you're going to factor that in. You're going to make good choices. So that is number one, is you must track and measure your food at least at one time in your life to get an idea of what it looks like as far as the amount of calories you're eating, what a certain amount of grams of protein looks like, carbs, fat, etc. All right, now the second one that is, I would say, the most underrated health crisis, health problem in America today is you sleep like shit. I think that I mentioned this before. I listened to a podcast where the CEO of Whoop, which is the wearable I wear, was talking about, and he has statistics on people worldwide, millions and millions of people, and he said that 70% of people have dysregulated sleep. So I'm going to go with most people sleep like shit, and they minimize the detriments of what happens when you don't sleep well. Now, I can hear everybody saying right now, like, well, here's my excuse number one. Here's excuse number two. Here's excuse number three. Yeah, listen, like you can make all the excuses you want. The thing is, like, Mother Nature is undefeated. Mother Nature does not give a shit if you have children or if you have a job that, is busy and makes you stay up late, or, um, if you need time to unwind and you just aren't in the habit of getting to bed before 11 p.m. Like, you just need to work towards getting good quality sleep. Otherwise, you're going to end up with hormone dysregulation. And when your hormones are fucked up when you don't sleep well, your ghrelin increases, which is the hunger hormone. Your leptin decreases, right? Your satiety hormone. Your cortisol levels increase, which is an essential hormone, but you don't want your cortisol raging at times you do not want your cortisol raging, right? It's a stress hormone. You become insulin resistant. Okay. Your insulin starts to become dysregulated. You become less insulin sensitive. And then you have to start making more of it, and your blood sugar's all over the place. Your insulin like growth factor decreases, right? Which is AKA the effects of growth hormone in your body. Your growth hormone spikes in the evenings and in times of fasting. And if you get a less robust growth hormone signal because you sleep like crap, then you're not recovering. You age faster than you should. It's harder for you to build muscle. And here's the underrated problem: is you end up with uh, with dysregulated sleep, your brain does not recover. Then you're groggy, you're tired, and your decision making is poor. When you have poor decision making, you have poor impulse control. Poor impulse control, you eat garbage. You drink silly, sugary drinks, and you try to live on caffeine, right? And then, the caffeine fucks up your sleep, and then you're in this vicious cycle of hormone dysregulation and stimulants. And lo and behold, you end up with this belly fat that is hard to work off your body. I can't tell you how many people live in this cycle of insanity. Here's some bad habits that I see: late night TV in bed. Listen, if you have a television in your bedroom, get it out tonight. No TV in the bedroom. Uh, the bedroom is for sex and sleep. That is it. Okay. I read sometimes in bed, but listen, there should never be TV in bed. Your brain associates places with activities, and it should not be associating bed with TV. Never mind the effects of blue light and distraction and whatnot. Phone scrolling. I've been guilty of this. This is something I'm really trying to work on minimizing, but do not get on the phone when you're in bed. Caffeine too late. Caffeine has a half life of 6 hours. That's why the hard cutoff is noon. You should not be drinking caffeine after 12 o'clock. Some people are more caffeine sensitive than others, but it's a pretty strong rule. Inconsistent sleep and wake times. This is most people's problem, is they have a routine in the week and then they have a weekend, I guess, sabotage sleep schedule. Stay up super late Friday, Saturday, try to catch up Sunday, and boom, you're back to work Monday. We've gotten in a really good pattern, my wife and I, of getting to bed almost at the same time during weekend nights and getting up at the same time in the morning on weekends than we do it during the week, with some exceptions, of course. But overall, the vast majority of weekends, we are going to bed and waking up at the same times. So when you fix your sleep, you fix your metabolism, you fix your hormones, you fix your blood sugar, you fix your mindset, and then you'll see the results. Okay. That's a non negotiable. You have to fix your sleep if you want ideal body composition and weight loss. So this brings me to number three, which we just touched on, which is your hormones are out of whack. There's an underrated, I would say, I guess it's more obvious these days, or more understood these days, how important your hormones are when it comes to the problems such as weight loss, body composition, energy, sex drive, confidence. Your hormones, your sex hormones are super critical when it comes to the results you are seeking with your fitness, okay, and your health and your weight loss. Symptoms of hormonal issues. Number one, fat gain. Okay, especially around the midsection. Low energy and low libido is a telltale sign of um, low libido in specific. It's a telltale sign that you have hormone dysregulation, low desire, right? Poor recovery. We talked about growth hormone and how important it is when you're getting proper sleep that you get good growth hormone signaling for recovery, but also testosterone, estrogen, sleep issues really play into that. So when you have low testosterone in men and women, you're going to see first and foremost the number one symptom I'm seeing actually is like low energy. So waking up in the morning and feeling not recovered and having a low energy and low recovery. But testosterone affects many things. Brain health is a really important one for your energy and your confidence. Your sexual health, of course, for libido and desire and sex drive, both men and women. Also, things like muscle building, body composition, your body's ability to burn fat. Okay, really important to have adequate testosterone levels. High cortisol. Cortisol levels are critical for life. You need cortisol. It's an important stress hormone for fight or flight. And in times that you need that energy release from your body, but there's also times where your body needs to rest and repair and relax and digest and reproduce and have proper immune function and recovery. And those are times of dips or low cortisol. But if your body has trouble dipping into these low cortisol times, your body's going to end up more stressed more chronically. You're going to have higher blood sugar. You're going to have, higher chance of insulin resistance, and your body's going to be more prime for storage and weight gain. That equals insulin resistance, right? Estrogen dominance is a problem I see a lot in women, especially. The more body fat you have, the more estrogen dominant you become. Okay. Estrogen is a hormone that is produced by your adipose tissue or fat cells. And when you're in estrogen dominance, it's very difficult to get out of, those symptoms of weight gain, um, fatigue, problems like that make it very difficult to lose weight. Low IGF-1, we talked about this growth hormone, right? Without proper sleep, eating enough protein and strength training, your IGF-1 signaling will not be as robust as it should. And of course, thyroid. Thyroid's a big one. And not just your average old TSH signal that you're going to get on, if you're lucky, on a routine blood panel from your primary care. There's a lot more going on under the hood when it comes to thyroid. So your TSH will signal your thyroid to make both T3 and T4 hormones. T4 is the inactive form of thyroid. T3 is the active form of thyroid. That's the stuff that your body needs for proper cardiovascular health, for proper metabolism, for proper, energy and overall body functions. So about 80% of that hormone from your thyroid is T4 and 20% is T3. The T4 then circulates in your bloodstream and it is converted to T3 in your liver. So all of a sudden, the liver becomes an important part of this this life cycle of your thyroid hormone that can activate and use thyroid hormones. So the carriers, okay, there's free T3 and T3, right? So you're going to see what's your freely unbound hormone and your hormone that's bound, just like androgen hormones like testosterone, estrogen. There's something called sex hormone binding globulin that binds to your androgen hormones. Whatever's not bound is like the active form of hormone. So you need to be measuring these things to find out, well, how much active hormone do I have? How much active estrogen? How much active testosterone? How much active thyroid do I have? Is any of it being my thyroid hormone converted to reverse T3? Okay, which is unusable. How much of how many is my body producing antibodies against my thyroid? So all these things are really important when it comes to finding out, well, how is my metabolism functioning? How healthy is my body expressing normal physiology? So these are really important things to measure with your hormones. Of course, this is what we do with weaponized wellness is we make sure we get a good look under the hood to make sure your hormone expression is adequate because you can't guess with this stuff. Okay, you need a comprehensive hormone panel, comprehensive blood work to really drive your decisions with data. Okay, Number 4, and maybe one that a lot of people don't want to hear about. It's they think it's the fun police, but alcohol. Now, you've been hearing more and more people talk about alcohol and how it's not good for your health. It just so happens to be true. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but there are no health benefits to alcohol. Okay. It's not harmless. It turns into ethanol in your body. And here's what it does, right? It halts your protein synthesis. So if you worked out really hard that day and you wanted to shred those muscle fibers and rebuild them bigger and stronger, okay, you just blunted the whole process of recovering by drinking alcohol. Okay. It increases estrogen in men. So that's no bueno. You don't want an more estrogen expression in men. You need some, but you don't want too much. Okay. Estrogen expression keeps you fat. It keeps you infertile. It keeps you from building muscle, burning body fat, from having high confidence, etc. So you do not want these estrogenic effects from alcohol. Okay, this happens in men. It disrupts your sleep. Okay, particularly REM sleep. So there's different sleep cycles that happen. Okay, throughout the night, you have light, REM, and deep sleep. It prevents you from dipping into these REM cycles, which you need for recovery. And again, these hormone expressions and recoveries. So it completely jacks up your sleep. Okay. And there's all these downstream effects of jacking up your sleep, which we touched on already. Okay. Inhibits building muscle. It inhibits your hormones from recovering. It inhibits your insulin and your body, your blood sugar from recovering, etc. And of course, it elevates good old cortisol. Okay. Your cortisol levels are high, you're more stressed out, and it's just a vicious cycle here. So, not to mention, alcohol adds empty calories to your intake. A lot of people don't realize, like, oh, well, I'm just drinking like Tito's and soda. It's like, yeah, well, every gram of alcohol has 7 calories. So, you're still taking in empty calorie on top of whatever you ate that day. Not to mention the detriments that those empty calories have on your body. So regular drinkers, when they do my program and they take it seriously and they cut back significantly on alcohol, they drop at least 10 pounds almost within the first 30 days. I would say within the first 30 days, the average is about 8 to 10 pounds. It's very common that that extra 8 to 10 to 20 pounds on your frame and you're a routine drinker, that stuff goes bye bye immediately, right? Even if you're doing like 2 weeks, 2 days a week, and you're drinking, 3 or 4 drinks those 2 days, this can hinder fat loss. Okay. So I'm telling you, your next big breakthrough could be like, all right, I'm just going to go 30 to 60 days of no alcohol and just see what happens. This is what in 2018, this is what happened to me. It was all because of this whoop strap, right? So I figured out, my God, like when I drink alcohol, my resting heart rate jacks up, um, my HRV, my heart rate variability, it plummets, and I saw my sleep score and my sleep recovery plummeted. And I know what this does to my body. I was like, oh my God, like I didn't realize how much alcohol affects your ability to recover and heal. So this was a breakthrough for me. I'm not like a never drinker, but I'm a very infrequent drinker because of it. And I tell you what, it is at this point at 46 years old, and I credit infrequent drinking to helping me get to this point. Is I look, feel, and perform better than I have in the last 10 years. Right. So this is because I put a lot of attention, and meticulous, attention to what I put in my body, what I do with my body. And it really, really has paid off. I mean, energy through the roof. My strength is up. My joint health is great. And I do credit, of course, prioritizing sleep, eating, 95 to, in most weeks, 100% of my meals from home, and not drinking alcohol often. Picking your spots, right? All right, number 5, far too many people, and I think women are more guilty of this, is they're focusing on what the scale says versus what's actually going on with their body physiologically. So, in other words, you're focusing on weight loss instead of muscle gain. Now, I heard somebody put it this way, and it flipped a switch in my head and gave me like a really strong understanding of why this happens with a lot of people. And I hope I can explain this properly. You see, muscle is your metabolic engine. All right. And I see this, I observe this with my in-body scan at my office. So I'm testing body composition with, folks I'm working with, and I can see how many pounds of muscle do you have on your frame, right? Your height, your weight, your age, and whatnot, and how many pounds of muscle do you have on your frame versus body fat. And that gives me a really good understanding of like, well, how much active metabolic tissue do you have on your body? Because here's what happens is your body has this basal metabolic rate. It's just how many calories do you burn just existing on planet Earth doing nothing, right? To make your organs work and to fuel your muscles, right? Without even doing it if you laid on the couch. Now, that is where most of your calorie is burned during the day by far. By far. If you've ever looked at a chart, there's basal metabolic rate, which is the vast amount of calories you'll burn. Then a little bit of it is from exercise. A little bit of it is like the thermogenic effect of food, right? Especially protein. Okay. And then a little bit of it is from NEAT or non exercise movement, like walking, moving around, like moving your body, shaking your foot, that kind of stuff. Your muscle is the metabolic engine that increases your metabolic rate. It is like investing into a something that is going to give you long term. Um, it's basically like investing your money, right? So you invest your money in, say, the stock market or mutual funds or in some sort of like appreciating asset. And what happens is it gives you returns over time. This is like what your muscle does. So your muscle, it not only looks nicer on your body, and I think most people would agree with this. If you had pictures of people that were well muscled versus not well muscled, I think most people would choose the healthier looking, more muscled body that is more aesthetically pleasing. Not that it's about aesthetics, but like when we're healthy, we just like look better. Okay. How you look is a reflection of, like, in a lot of cases, how you feel, but also in a lot of cases about your habits. Strength training has got to be one of the habits you prioritize if you want to have sustainable weight loss. The issue with weight loss with a lot of people is they'll cut down a bunch of the calories and starve themselves, maybe add a little GLP shot to like dampen down the hunger signals, slow down, the digestive process. Then you end up in this caloric deficit. But if you are not strength training, if you're not putting on muscle, what happens is if you stop those behaviors, you'll balloon back up because it's unsustainable. The only way to make that sustainable is if you build muscle, because your body will naturally burn more calorie at rest if you build muscle. Okay. It's the only way to make weight loss sustainable is if you lift weights and put muscle on your frame. So, weight training requires resistance activity. You have to lift weights. Okay. You have to eat adequate amounts of protein, right? How much protein? Well, anywhere between like zero point 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight for most people. If you're someone who's like severely obese, like you're 350 pounds, like I don't expect you to get 350 grams of protein in. Let's look at how many kilograms of like lean muscle mass you have on your body, and let's eat like 2 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram. Okay, that's a little bit complicated, but for most people, it's like around a gram of protein per pound of body weight. Because it's all about this word, recomposition, okay, rather than weight loss. That's why looking at the scale and seeing like, fuck, I worked my ass off these last 3 weeks and I only lost half a pound. Well, if you had, an in-body scan or a DEXA scan, and you looked at what was going on under the hood and you've eaten protein and lifted weights, it's strongly possible that you just turned over a whole bunch of your, tissue from fat to muscle. I had this experience with a weaponized body person just the other day. After 30 to 40 days, they built 6 pounds of muscle on their frame. It was unbelievable because this person wasn't 20 years old. They were, in their 40s. They built 6 pounds of muscle in 45 days. But the scale only showed 1 pound of weight loss and they were discouraged. So we did an in-body scan and boom, this person dropped like 4% body fat. All right. Because they gained 6 pounds of muscle. Okay. In relativity to their total body weight. So this became from someone who was discouraged to super encouraged. So that's why it's really important to know, like, focusing on like muscle gain instead of weight loss. Now, here's number 6. And I see this a lot, especially in today's information age and social media world, is that far too many people are majoring in the minors when it comes to specifically like muscle gain and weight loss, right? So people obsess over like intermittent fasting. Like, all right, I did a podcast on this. There's benefits to intermittent fasting. I'm not opposed to it. But when it comes to weight loss specifically, intermittent fasting is not magic. There's no research that shows, hey, if you do this, you'll lose weight. Okay. Here's what the magic is like it just shortens up the window that you get to eat food. So if it helps put you in a caloric deficit, great, intermittent fast. But there's nothing magical about it that's going to make you lose weight other than it's going to help put you in a caloric deficit. Like people focus on these detoxes and cleanses and they buy all these silly like detoxes where you got to take a whole bunch of supplements and pills and like teas and stuff like that. That stuff mostly is bullshit. So are like fat burners and supplements and stimulants. You don't need that shit. Okay. You're just wasting your money. Body sculpting gadgets, um, lasers and cool sculpting and all this stuff. Like, sure, you want to give it a go to if you think it helps aesthetically how you look, great. But guess what? You're going to be far more. You're going to get far better results if you put that time, effort, energy, and money into what you eat, how you move your body and work out, and how you sleep and manage stress. You got to focus on the big levers. Okay. Hydration was the fifth lever that I didn't mention, right? So daily protein intake, hydration, strength training, sleep hygiene, and um, stress reduction or stress management. All right. So you're not going to do it with easy buttons. You're not going to do it with fancy programs that make you buy their special foods or bars or like detox teas and shit like that. Like easy buttons don't get results. Okay. Consistency does. Number 7, and this is something that I have put more emphasis on over time about how important this is that your gut is a mess likely. If you're having trouble losing weight and you're doing most of the right things, if your gut is a mess, then you're not going to be able to get the results that you want. Now, what I mean by that is if you have bloating, constipation, gas, food intolerances, chronic fatigue, okay, there's likely something going on called dysbiosis. Okay, if the healthy bacterial flora in your gut is not healthy, you're going to have trouble breaking down the food that you take in, absorbing the right nutrients, and processing and eliminating. So nutrient absorption, inflammation, and believe it or not, hormone regulation, because your body recycles hormones, okay, through your bowel movements and through urine, etc. And here's the most underrated thing is that if your gut is inflamed, so is your brain. All right. There's something called the gut brain axis that is really, really important for those that struggle with things like anxiety and depression, and like brain related issues, brain fog, and things like that. The chances are your gut is also problematic. I see this so often. Gut problems and brain problems coincide almost all the time. So restoring gut health is really critical. You can get gut tests through Vibrant Health. We've started to offer gut testing. This tells us about your bacterial flora and where you're imbalanced. Okay. If you want to help your gut health, consume fermented foods, take probiotics. Managing stress is really, really critical. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. Do some testing to see if you have any sort of gut related dysbiosis or infections, and make sure you consume fiber. Okay. You cannot skip this step. In a lot of cases, if you have, gut problems, the fiber, is what are called prebiotics for your gut flora. Uh, so in other words, that is what helps fuel and keep your gut bacteria healthy when you're eating things like fruits and vegetables and, certain starches and things like that. So it's really important for healthy gut function. Okay, number 8, you're deficient in water, nutrients, and fiber. So I touched on this just now a little bit, but your hydration, it impacts things like your energy, your hunger, your ability to detoxify. Um, how much water should you drink? Well, for most people, it's at least half your body weight in ounces. For myself, I'm a 190-pound guy. I drink a gallon of water a day, which is 130 ounces. I've adapted to that. I have no problem taking that in. For most of you, you need some practice to get there. So, just go up by 15, 20 ounces a week. making sure you're starting with at least half your body weight in ounces and see where you land. Most people need between 80 to 130 ounces per day. Your nutrient deficiencies that I see often, especially with blood work, are B vitamin deficiencies, okay, B12 and folate. A lot of people have methylation issues with those. So just taking a premethylated B12 folic acid supplement is a really nice way to make sure you become sufficient there. It's important for energy, all of your mitochondrial function in your body, which produces energy. Magnesium. Magnesium is probably one of the most common nutrient or mineral deficiencies. So I do magnesium before bed. I do some threonate during the day, and I do magnesium glycinate at night. Especially if you're doing a lot of sweating and a lot of exercise, a little extra magnesium is helpful. Or if you have especially symptoms of things like muscle cramping, if you have trouble falling asleep, try some magnesium. And zinc too, really important for optimal hormone profiles like testosterone. These can all impair metabolism if you have deficiencies: magnesium, zinc, B vitamins, fiber. So we just talked about fiber and how it's really important for healthy gut bacteria. It's also important for satiety. It helps fill you up if you're eating, stuff that has fiber. So things that have lots of fiber are things like fruits and vegetables, things like avocados and berries. Certain fruits like apples, as well as broccoli and um, spinach and all these sort of like cruciferous types of vegetables, really important for regulating your blood sugar, helping you feel full, and important for your gut health. So, as I said, between 80 to 120 ounces a day is the target for water. 20 to 30 grams of fiber is a pretty good uh, metric to shoot for an average healthy adult. So that looks like, 3 servings of vegetables per day, and eating the rainbow. Eat the rainbow: fruits, veggies, legumes, whole foods, all that stuff grows from the ground or from a tree. It's probably good. Okay. Number 9, you're overloaded with toxins. This I did a podcast on not too long ago about estrogenics, specifically xenoestrogens, things that mimic hormones in the body, particularly estrogen producing hormones. So, environmental exposures from things like plastics. Do not drink water out of plastic. Do not heat plastics. Do not store your food in plastics. Personal care products, try to be careful you don't have any parabens, or toxins, heavy metals, or bullshit in your lipsticks and your facial creams and your makeups and your deodorants. Right, heavy metals like aluminums, um, pesticides and herbicides that are sprayed on your fruits and vegetables. Wash your fruits and vegetables. Try to get organic vegetables that don't have skin, especially stuff that you're just eating, like an apple, for example. Try to get organic apples. It does make a difference. I get it. It's a little bit full of shit. You'll still get some pesticide on organic produce, but probably less of a toxin load. And here's the most underrated toxin: is pharmaceutical medication. A lot of people are on pharmaceutical medication, and there's a toxic load from that medication. Take those side effects or effects of the medication seriously, especially when you start combining multiple meds. So they disrupt endocrine functions. Okay. They promote fat storage. So what you can do is switch to like clean household, clean products that you put on your body. Eat organic when possible, and you can support the liver with cruciferous vegetables, hydrate, sleep, that kind of stuff. Okay. Here's our last one. And here is one that is also, I believe, aside from sleep, probably the most underrated health concern in our society today, and that's chronic stress. Now, of course, there's chemical stress, physical stress, but specifically mental emotional stress. And the reason this one is hard to I guess grasp is because it's hard to measure. It's very hard to measure. All the other ones you can pretty much measure. Chronic stress creates chronic cortisol, which lends itself to fat storage. And we're talking chronic stress. There's relationships, there's financial, there's occupational, there's familial, there's existential. So there's all kinds of stress that we put on ourselves throughout our lifetimes. And here's the thing, though, I've noticed that people that are more robustly healthy, the healthier the organism, the more stress you can take on, and the more you're able to like process and deflect the stress. So you become more resilient. More resilient people who are more resilient can deal and take on more stress. I believe if you're someone who's entrepreneurial, if you're somebody who, has that high octane type A lifestyle, this is why, the morning routine thing has become so popular because it helps you get in the right mindset. It helps you establish healthy behaviors. It helps you to be able to take on the stressors of the day. If you're somebody who just crumbles under the lightest amount of stress, like you need to get healthier. And there's ways to get healthier by, you know, clearing anxiety, by sleeping better, um, mitigating cravings and minimizing your belly fat by paying attention to those 9 other things I just talked about, plus stress management, and of course, with your strength training and your optimal nutrition plans. Um, here's some basics with stress management. Um, these are some things that I've implemented and experimented with. Breath work is very efficient at helping you in the moment clear stress. Okay. Regulate your heart rate, balance your hormones in the moment, lower your blood sugar, minimize cortisol. Okay. If you want to learn more about breath work, there's plenty of information out there about breath work. There's programs out there that teach the basics around breath work. I practice the most like rudimentary, basic breath work. I do what's called box breathing. And this is a simple 5-second inhalation, 5-second hold, 5-second exhale with a 5-second hold. And you just repeat, repeat. I do this in my ice bath. I don't ice bath every day. On the days that I don't strength train, I ice bath or first thing in the morning if I'm going to strength train later in the day. This really helps with getting your mind right, and really being able to take on more stress. Of course, meditation is something that I've been doing routinely that helps create space. Now, if you can get really good at minimizing your reaction from any thoughts that come up in your head, if you get really good at controlling your mind, you can get really good at becoming more responsive rather than reactive. Um, when you're reactive, you just let whatever stressor it is get your goat, right? It makes you react typically with like anger or frustration. If you're able to control your emotions, you are able to become, better at dealing with stress. Your anxiety will lower, your stress hormones will lower. Overall, you'll just become more zen and calm. Okay. Meditation does this. Spending time outdoors in nature. I know for me, this is something that I need. Getting your feet grounded, getting outside, breathing fresh air, getting sunshine and natural sunlight. We spend far too much time as like domesticated animals in a cage, breathing recycled air under artificial lights. We are not built for this. We're basically animals in captivity. Get outside. Okay. This is why, we've made it a really important goal of ours to have weekend escapes, away from the city, where we can get out and get outside in the dirt, swim in a lake and just be outdoors. I can't recommend that enough. It is just like primal and natural and things that I believe that we need in order to minimize stress and be healthier. Um, yeah. And of course, here comes the sleep recommendation again, getting at least 7 hours of sleep. There's people out there that say like, "Oh yeah, I only need 4 or 5 hours." Like, chances are they're full of shit. Chances are they've just trained themselves to only sleep that much, and they're probably just chronically under recovered. That shit catches up. So most people are making things harder on themselves. Okay, it's just about doing these right things better. And if you need help, find a coach, find a mentor, find someone who will help point out these things that you're doing because the chances are if you're struggling with weight loss, if you're struggling with putting on muscle and burning body fat, like the chances are one of these 10 things or multiple of these 10 things are things that are happening, but you're not realizing the detriments of them. Just get really honest with your habits and your data and your blind spots. So coaches or consultants are really good at helping you identify those, because your body keeps the score whether you think you're tracking or not, right? So this is where I'm gonna, promote and offer a free discovery call. This is something I offer anybody who wants to get on the phone with me, a free 15-minute discovery call. We can break it down, see if there's anything I can do to help identify some things that are, preventing you from getting the results you want with your health. I'm happy to do that with anybody. Look me up on any of my social media channels, whether that's the Weaponized Dad on Instagram, Dr. Ryan Hewitt on Facebook, um, Dr. Ryan at theweaponizedbody.com. Feel free to shoot me a message. Happy to get on the phone, see if there's anything I can ever do to help you. Book a free discovery call. And if you're interested in more comprehensive lab testing, I have good news. My weaponized wellness website will soon be live. It will be www.weaponizedwellness.com. You can learn all about the panels we offer and the hormone optimization services that we offer, as well as supplement lifestyle and the weaponized body program. So stop spinning your wheels, start building your weaponized body. Again, I'm Dr. Ryan Hewitt. Let me know if I can ever do anything to help. Please like, share, rate, review. Appreciate you guys for listening. I'll see you guys next week.